Let's see. The last 3 games I reviewed have all been legendary. So according to my contract to the gods of internet reviews, I believe that I have to review a game that's average or less than that. This calls for Luminous Arc! Start it up! Luminous Arc, that little strategy RPG that you might have heard of but never played. It was released by Atlas on the DS in 2007, got some mixed but not too bad reviews, and was solid enough to warrant 2 sequels. Now, don't get me wrong, Luminous Arc isn't a bad game by any means. It has a really fun battle system, some memorable characters, and shows effort, but there's just a lot of little issues nagging in the game that really drag it down. Let's go over the plot, with an expertly detailed summary picked up from Wikipedia. Shit. In a fantasy world, the Garden Children are a special group of warriors trained by the Arc Knight Heath to fight monsters and condemn the witches, beings that have reappeared in the world after being gone for 1,000 years. The Garden Children get their name from Evergarden, where a majority of them have been living most of their lives. I'd like to point out that having a small army called the Garden Children is like the least threatening name ever. Each member of the group has a special ability, making him or her useful in combat, ranging from sword fighting to archery skills to the use of church-approved magic. You follow these adolescents of the church as they travel across the world tasked with defeating the witches and collecting the Lepistiers, mysterious stones of power and stuff. With the incredibly original motto, "Preserve the light, condemn the dark," they set out on their journey filled with heartbreak, betrayal, vengeance, and redemption. Who knows what will happen in this journey to save the planet? At least that last part is what I would really love to say, but the truth is you can predict about 70% of the story of this game within the first half an hour, and that's not a good sign. I don't want to be a dick and spoil it all, but is it really a spoiler if it's this obvious? For the integrity of my reviews, I'll just say that this game exploits the hell out of a certain RPG cliche that hampers almost every game in the genre. A certain story element you'll see coming almost immediately. It's so frustrating. The most I can say about this plot is that it almost borderlines Avatar simplicity, and how offensive it is to the audience's intelligence. Knowing that the plot didn't have a strong core, I hoped for some good twists and pacing at least, but even at a short 18 hours, the story still managed to be a bit of a drag, with weak pacing that just felt like padding a lot of the time. I'm sorry to say that I checked out of the plot about 14 hours in, though it did seem to get stronger near the end. It's just a bare bones, run-of-the-mill RPG story about a group of teenagers saving the world. But the game does have some very compelling scenes and even some subtlety in the dialogue, but there's just a really strange mix of the game taking itself too seriously 99% of the time, and then throwing in a really stupid joke during a serious scene. This gives the impression that the game may know that it has a cheesy-ass story and isn't taking itself seriously. I mean, sure, some people could say that this game is self-aware and intentionally cheesy, but these moments were just way too rare. They should have either gone one way or the other, not just riding somewhere in between. So, the story definitely isn't the strength of Luminous Arc. And I don't even want to go over all the characters because of how many there are, but I'll at least hit the main ones. There's our hero, Alf. Oh my god, do I wish it was so. But this Alf comes from a group I like to call the most predictable and boring RPG protagonists. We couldn't think of anything else original group. With his main traits being do-goodliness, strong will, and stubbornness. That's all. There's Theo, Alf's brother, who's obsessed with eggs because why not? There's Cecile, a soft-spoken healer archetype, though I will admit she got a pretty interesting twist halfway through the game. There's Leon, who absolutely has to be a Squall ripoff with that big-ass sword, his affiliation with lions, and how his name is Leon, which was supposedly Squall's nickname in Kingdom Hearts. A pedantic point, but noticeable nevertheless. Nikolai may have been my favorite character, simply because he hit on anything without a penis, and I respect that, I suppose. He was at least memorable. Finally, there's Lucia, the sassy one, and when I first saw and heard her, I knew there was something about her that seemed absurdly familiar. I want to see if you guys can pick it up. Pay attention to this dialogue and see if you can spot it. It's from a specific game, and that's my only clue.
Hey, you! What? I don't do dishes. What did you say? It'll dry out my hands, so I don't like doing it. What kind of a maid are you? I choose my own job as a maid. Fine. Then start cleaning.
3DS title?
Sweep the floors in the dorm.
Got a guess? Well, I'll tell you about my moment of epiphany. I was at work one day, doing my job, even though LEGO people don't need an income, but that's irrelevant. I was working really hard when it hit me. Oh my god! It's raining video games! No, that's not it. Oh my god! Lucia is Fi! Yeah, from the personality, and I'm pretty sure to the voice actor, this is the same friggin' character. It really doesn't mean anything to the overall review, I just had to point it out. I know I'm missing some others, but really, when you have 35 plus characters in an 18-hour story, there's a lot of one-note guitars, if you know what I mean. They just don't seem to get enough time to escape that one note, so they're stuck there, and you're stuck listening to them. Thankfully, the battle system fares a lot better. The game features about 25 chapters, each consisting of at least one major battle, and then some random battles in between. On this ridiculously bland overworld map, you sometimes get caught in a battle where you can summon 8 of your units to accomplish whatever the objective is, though slaughtering everyone in your path is usually the soup of the day. You then get into the actual fights, which are the highlight of the game. Like Final Fantasy A2, you move one unit at a time, trying to take out enemy units while keeping terrain, range, and enemy placement in mind on top of everything else. Like in A2, you also have to keep in mind which units are facing which direction, as enemies facing their backs to you are more susceptible to damage, and the same thing happens if you have a higher elevation. Like Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, you can gather up points for special attacks to take out enemies with something called a flash drive. Man, I sound like a broken record, so let's talk about some of the more unique features you don't see in A2 or Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. The biggest deviation is the use of all story-driven characters in Luminous Arc, in lieu of recruiting mostly random members. Each of the characters are given specific traits, skills, and such that makes each and every one unique, and I have to say that this was a good choice because you still got some nice variety. This gives you less customization overall though, as characters are stuck with one class and nothing else, unless the story changes a class. They all have their specific jobs, like the mages, the healers, the swordsmen, but without a doubt, there wasn't any problem I couldn't handle when I had a rim job. The characters also got story-driven synergy attacks, which was an interesting addition, though I never used them. This is because, inevitably, some characters are blatantly better than others, and characters that you need to perform synergy attacks, like Lucia, suck at combat, meaning that any positive outcomes from using synergy attacks are negated by having to use a sucky character. Still, having all these unique skills and characters made it fun to experiment with, and added a lot to the overall experience. Another nifty little feature was how your character was fully healed when they leveled up during a battle, which added a lot of strategy and saved my ass more than once. I thought it was really cool how, if you can keep track of how a character was leveling up, you can throw them into a difficult situation and still come on top if you keep the timing and everything in mind. On the flip side, they made power leveling a bit too easy, mainly because healing another party member automatically gives you almost a third of the experience needed to level up, meaning that you can just stand in a corner and max out your party members, and that's pretty cheap. Another issue, let's say you have 99 XP and then you get a boost of 66 XP. What happens? You get 65 XP, right? Nope, you get 1 for the level up and the other 65 XP just disappears. I don't know where, I guess into one of the giant plot holes in the story. That was a rather frustrating design choice. Though, given the easiness of leveling up, that may just be there to balance things. The difficulty of the game is a gradual curve with really easy battles early on until a particular chapter when it all ramps up, and then it spikes once in a while from there. And the final battles provide a really good and rewarding challenge. That is, when the enemy AI wasn't being stupid. Sometimes you can just wait in a corner and they'll all come to your party where you can gang up on them one at a time. I felt bad, like I was beating a 4-year-old at tennis. Despite this, in the end, the battle system is really a saving grace for Luminous Arc, for just being pretty friggin' fun. Plus, the addition of battling your friends online via wireless connection was a very welcome add-on that's absent from too many other similar titles. There's really not a whole lot more to cover. There's a crafting system that I never had to use, and you can go to the library in each town, but forget that noise, it's so boring, and it doesn't add anything to the motivation of these characters. After every battle, you get to build Alf's connection with one of the characters, which was kind of interesting, I guess, but all you really have to do is not be a complete jackass to build up your relationships. There's not a lot to it, which was pretty disappointing. The graphics in the game were hit and miss again. The character portraits have very few animations, but the character designs themselves are very memorable and have a pretty cool anime style. I like the designs of a lot of the witches in particular, though it's awfully convenient that they all have to be gorgeous. Like, couldn't we have an average looking witch to make this more realistic? I don't know. As I said, the overworld map is completely bland and forgettable, but the battle graphics fare a lot better, with pretty good looking character models and enemies. The only complaint I have there is how special attack graphics were quite underwhelming. The music of the game was okay. I swear I didn't even plan this out, but Yasunori Mitsuda composed a bit of the soundtrack, and you can really tell his work apart from the others. It is a passable soundtrack with some good tracks, so there's not too much to say here. The voice acting was surprisingly good as well. It seemed like a lot of the budget went into some bigger named voice actors, and it was an appreciated effort. Except for Theo's annoying ass voice actor. God. Still, a great effort considering the platform. In the end, the fact that Luminous Arc does not have a good story or a big budget made me just want to go play Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. But don't misinterpret me as saying this is a bad game. The effort is certainly there at a lot of points, and it was a fun game to play on a long car ride or something because it didn't require much thought. And its short playtime plus some good post-game content meant that it's worth picking up if you find it for under 20 bucks. However, if it came between this and a better strategy RPG like Final Fantasy Tactics, the Fire Emblem series or something, then definitely go with one of the latter. For what it is, I still enjoyed Luminous Arc and recommend it if you want a simple strategy RPG, but veterans of the genre or those looking for a good story are better off looking elsewhere. And, okay, I fulfilled the contract. I think I should hit up another DS review, but which one? Oh, we meet again. I'm John Tickles, and I think you know my next random encounter.